Well, ESO finally did it after 10 plus years. In 2025, with their next base game update, The Elder Scrolls Online is now going to let you change your class. Sort of. Thanks to ZeniMax Online for giving me an early preview of this crazy new feature, plus much more coming to the game this year in their Season of the Worm Cult Parts 1 and 2. In this video, I'll break down everything I learned during my time with the development team this week, and if you like ESO content like this and you want to stay up to date on everything coming to the game in 2025, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Alright, let's get into ESO subclasses. Now, honestly, I did not expect this feature to make it to ESO anytime soon, though myself and many others have wanted something like this for a long time. This is a pretty cool way to address a major pain point in the game right now, which is for those who only want to invest in one character, how can they experience other classes and other skill lines? Well, instead of giving us something like a class change token and letting us change our class completely, ZOS will be introducing a new feature called Subclasses. Once a player hits level 50, they will unlock the option to add or remove skill lines from any other class in the game. Now, before Subclasses, ESO just had the 7 class options, but now, with the ability to mix and match skill lines going forward, there's going to be something like over 3,000 possible, quote, classes that you can make, which is pretty insane. But with this new system coming in the next update, you can basically make your character exactly as you want, to express yourself exactly as you want in combat. I mean, this combined with the skill styles that we already have for many abilities, changing how they look, combined with our new set of customizable scribing skills, I think ESO has really achieved a new level of character customization that's going to rival its competitors in the MMO genre, and I'm really happy to see this, even if it's going to make my job of creating build guides a lot more challenging. Now, I'll talk about this in future videos, obviously, but just think of some of the possibilities you can create with subclasses in ESO. For example, you could create the ultimate summoner style build, maybe the Warden Bear Pet combined with the skeletal minions of the Necromancer combined with the Daedric Scamp and Twilight from the Sorcerer class. Or you could make a life siphoning Lich build by combining Necromancer Bone Tyrant skills with the Nightblade's siphoning and shadow magic. Or what about a Dark Paladin style build that uses Templar's Adric Spear skill line, combined with Sorcerer's Dark Magic skill line, combined with the Necromancer's Gravelord skill line. Yes, you can combine up to 3 skill lines on your character at one time. So how is this going to work exactly? Well, I did get some information. Apparently, subclassing is going to be an account-wide feature, meaning any skill lines you have across other characters are going to be available to you on your main character in some way. A little bit unclear here, but it sounds like you would still need to level up those skills on the main character, probably leveling up those morphs as well, which, I mean, that does make sense considering that primary character has never used those skill lines before, and so they're not proficient. Now, of course, if you haven't played a class like ever, then there will also be ways to unlock those skill lines on your main character as well. It sounds like there will be some sort of trainer quest line in place that's going to help you do that. Now, obviously for paid classes like the Arcanist, I'm sure you will still need to own the class in order to unlock those skills on your main. In fact, this is actually a really smart move by ZOS because I know many players who refused to buy the Arcanist class simply because they had so much time and energy invested in their main character and they didn't want to start over. But with this new subclassing system in place, you'll never need to start a new character again in order to experience a new class. You just buy the new class and then you can add their skills to your own character's skills. This is actually a pretty smart solution to a big problem for a lot of ESO players who really just play their main character and don't have any alts. Oh, and did I mention that subclassing is a free base game feature planned for ESO? This is another great move, I think, by the dev team, and it further supports their vision of improving the baseline experience of The Elder Scrolls Online for all players, especially improving that base game experience across the board. And now I also sat in on a Q&A with the developers to learn a little bit more about the new subclassing feature. A few things that came up that I thought were interesting. Number one, power level of skills is not changing for subclasses. So that means these subclass skills are not going to be stripped down or modified in any way. They are the exact same abilities that are available to that original class. There is one trade-off, however, which exists, and that is that your subclass skills require 2 skill points to unlock instead of 1. So it sounds like skill points and respecking are going to be more important than ever with this new update. In other words, to unlock more power on your character, you will need to invest more. Now, as far as armory and armory builds, I'm not sure how that's going to work. I don't have an answer for that yet. I'll let you know as soon as I know. And in regards to things like class sets from the Infinite Archive, I found out those are not changing, and those will only be usable by your original class. That is, the class that you chose during character creation. So if you're a Templar that also uses Sorcerer and Dragon Knight skills, well, you're still a Templar in terms of which class sets you can use, so just something to keep in mind there. And now in terms of balance, I think this is something that will be an ongoing discussion for players and the development team. Rich did talk about this a little bit in one of our Q&A sessions where he mentioned that the team did extensive testing in dungeons, for example, and while they did see some increased power creep, obviously, due to the ability to further optimize builds, it wasn't really a massive change, and basically they were okay with it, at least for now, and were more excited to give us these new options to customize builds and actually have fun playing the game, which is great. And if you're curious how this is going to look, I was given some gameplay B-roll footage to showcase. It looks pretty much as I would have hoped, with the player able to seamlessly switch between abilities on the fly from their predetermined subclasses. So yeah, I'm definitely curious what you guys think will be your favorite class and subclass combinations. Let me know what you think in the comments section. But let's talk about another huge change coming to ESO in 2025, which is seasons, with our first new season itself called Shadow of the Worm Cult. Now, the best way I can explain the 2025 season to you, and this was said several times by people on the development team as well, is it's basically right now a chapter, but instead of all the chapter content dropping in June, that same amount of content is spread out in multiple releases throughout the year. So starting in June, we have Shadow of the Worm Cult Part 1. This introduces a brand new zone, the Island of Solstice. This has some pretty interesting Argonian themes mixed with high elf vibes, including lush jungles, new monsters, a brand new city hub that looks pretty amazing, plus, you know, the usual delves and public dungeons. And we do know that there is a new 12-player trial coming this release as well. But what's more interesting, I think, is the Worm Cult aspect, which signals the return of the game's OG mainline story quest involving Molag Bal, Manny Marco, and the forces of Cold Harbor returning to the game for an epic continuation of that original storyline. And from what I've heard, many fan-favorite characters are returning into the mix as well, including Razum Dar, Vanis Galarian, and many more. I honestly can't wait to see how they return to the storyline and update it for the modern era of ESO. It should be really interesting. Season of the Worm Cult Part 2 is going to kick off late summer, opening up yet another new activity tied to Solstice called the Writhing Wall. This giant landmark separates the western and eastern sides of the zone with a giant wall of souls created by the Worm Cult. And there's this world-shaping event that players can join into together to try to breach the wall to put a stop to the Worm Cult forces gathering strength on the other side. Now, there seems to be multiple paths to participate in this event, as players can build camps, they can defend camps, and ultimately build a weapon which is going to be capable of breaking through the massive wall of souls. Based on the footage I saw, it seems like crafting and resource gathering might also be a part of the process, and certainly combat against the forces of Cold Harbor, that's a given, especially after that wall gets breached. Now, according to Rich, there are also multiple phases of the assault on the wall, and your entire server can contribute to bringing the wall down faster. Now, we have had several server-wide events in the past, but nothing quite like this, and with the world-changing aspect tied into it. Really sounds awesome. There's definitely going to be some bragging rights for the server that completes this event first. Then moving on, in Q4 of 2025, then the full eastern zone of Solstice is going to become available, and this area has a completely different aesthetic compared to the western side of the zone, as this one is, fully overtaken by the forces of Cold Harbor. This new section of the zone also contains the climactic end to the season of the Worm Cult storyline, which I'm sure is going to be awesome. And if you want to start learning more about this and you want to kind of see a bit of a preview, the Season of the Worm Cult prologue is available to check out right now. So definitely do that in-game if you are interested. So in terms of what I think overall, honestly, this first 2025 season for ESO, it doesn't seem that much different to me than the past chapter releases. I think we need to understand that the first year is going to be a bit of a transition for the game into this new model of delivering content. For example, some of the content that the dev team is releasing now has probably been in development for years. Solstice was probably the next chapter zone, before the new release cadence was established. The developers also talked about the next season possibly being shorter or maybe just as long as the season of the Worm Cult. I think the point is that they just now have more freedom to experiment and to release content when it's ready instead of waiting an entire year for the next big feature release and then trying to cram everything into that one single update. So I do think that that aspect of this change makes a lot of sense. But honestly, the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is the free update, the addition of subclassing to ESO. To me, this puts the game back on par with some of the more modern MMOs that we're seeing now, which are less class focused and give you more freedom to design your build around, specific weapons or playstyles. Plus, The Elder Scrolls has always been about play as you want styles of gameplay. So in ESO, the classes are still there, but they're more of just a framework and a starting point until you're ready to make your perfect customized build. I personally can't wait to start experimenting with class combinations myself to make some totally off-meta crazy builds around, different playstyles and themes. And to keep pace with all the changes this year and release more content more often for you guys, I actually decided I'm going to start an ESO newsletter. This will be just another opportunity for me to release more ESO guides and builds and news directly to you on a weekly basis. And I'm actually starting the first one this Friday, covering all the ESO direct news. So if you're interested, I'll leave a link for that down below. It's completely free to sign up and get those updates delivered directly to you. But as always, let me know what you think about these big changes coming to ESO down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you around in the next video.